Right, it is time for our next address. In recent years, there's been a lot of attention across economies given to the benefits of bettering diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Now, obviously, the infrastructure sector hasn't traditionally been the most diverse industry, but I know that in recent years, things have really started to change. So much has been achieved. And I think firms and organisations represented in this room today have increasingly seen the benefit of policies and cultures that value diversity. So, here to deliver Building Nations 2023 Diversity Address from sponsors Denton's Kensington Swan, please welcome Kate Broer and Katrina Van Hout.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everyone to Building Nations 2023. My name's Katrina Van Hout. I'm a major projects and construction partner at Denton's Kensington Swan. Denton's has been the diversity sponsor for Building Nations for a number of years now. We are proud that for the first time this year, the Diversity Corridor is part of the main conference, not a satellite event separate to this plenary session. I'm now joined by Kate Broer, Denton's Global Inclusion, Diversity and Equity Officer, who speaks to us today from Toronto. We are going to spend a few short minutes discussing how focusing on diversity, equity and inclusion can help unlock some of the other challenges facing the construction and infrastructure sector. We hope it gives you something to think about over the course of the next 2 days. Here's why. So we all know that productivity, innovation and ESG are challenges facing the infrastructure sector. There are more, but we've decided to focus on these 3 today. So as we know, construction and infrastructure is traditionally a sector with low productivity growth. This hasn't changed for decades. The Infrastructure Commission has reported that between 2000 and 2020, labour productivity increased 23% in building construction, 25% in construction services, but only 5% in heavy and civil engineering construction. That compares to economy-wide labour productivity growth of 30%. So this sector is lagging behind. Innovation. So in this fast-changing world, we need to innovate to keep up with advances in technology and respond to climate change. There is so much to do, and we have limited time and limited resources. So we need to think differently, do more with less, find new ways to fund and finance our infrastructure needs, and adapt our existing infrastructure to meet the way in which we will all live in the future. Last but not least, there is the ever-present discussion around ESG and sustainability. It's particularly front of mind for all of us here in New Zealand. We've heard lots of people refer to the Auckland anniversary floods and Cyclone Gabrielle this morning, which really reinforces the impact that they've had on everyone and the change that we've all seen since November last year when we last met. So addressing the impacts of climate change on our infrastructure and dealing with the difficult social questions that this brings up, such as managed retreat, calls for an urgent, practical and collaborative response. So I'm now going to hand over to Kate Broer, who will explain how diversity, equity and inclusion is an enabler that can help bring about change that will shift the dial on these metrics in the direction that we need. So I'll hand over to you now, Kate.
Thank you very much, Katrina, and kia ora from Toronto. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today and to talk to you about something that we are very passionate about, which is inclusion, diversity and equity, as the rocket fuel that can help us address common business challenges, find better solutions, and deliver results. At Denton's, inclusion, diversity, and equity are not only the right thing to do, they are core to our business strategy, all designed to help solve for many of the same challenges that you're facing as an industry and that Katrina outlined. So let's have a look at what we know about what inclusion and diversity can offer in building solutions, starting with productivity. Enhanced feelings of inclusion contribute to greater productivity at work and are correlated with lower rates of absenteeism and higher performance ratings among employees. One study found that if just 10% more employees feel included, organizations could increase overall work attendance by almost 1 day a year per employee, a huge productivity gain. Next up, innovation. In the current era, the pressure to innovate and to do it all the time is immense. Boston Consulting Group took a look at the impact that greater inclusion and diversity could have on innovation and conducted a study across more than 1,000 organizations around the world, looking at their diversity, how included their people felt, and the percentage of revenue they derived from new products and services launched in the prior 3 years. Those new products and services were their innovation marker. Organizations that scored above average on inclusion and diversity metrics generated innovation revenue at a rate almost 75% higher than their below average counterparts. Above average organizations saw 45% of their revenue from new products, while below average organizations saw only 26% of their revenue from new products. While all dimensions of diversity were observed to have an impact, bigger gains came from having diversity in national origin, gender balance, having team members from a range of industry backgrounds, and having team members who had come from different career paths. In other words, in addition to the traditional demographic characteristics that we think about, like gender or ethnicity, factors like varied educational and career backgrounds were also important to the mix. BCG also found that big gains could be achieved through relatively small changes, and that the goal should be to foster diversity across multiple dimensions rather than focus on any specific aspect. The overall diversity of the team mattered because all aspects had value. They also found that inclusion was the key to unlocking the value that diverse groups bring. Finally, ESG. This is a topic top of mind everywhere in just about every industry in every part of the world right now. Simply put, diversity strengthens environmental, social, and governance performance. In looking at ESG performance of S&P 500 companies, boards that included 3 or more women scored on average 23% points higher on ESG performance indicators than companies with boards that included fewer than 3 women. The reasons are straightforward. When corporate boards include members with diverse backgrounds and experiences, they are better able to recognize the needs and interests of different stakeholder groups. Women board directors are typically more likely than men to identify social issues like human rights, climate change, and income inequality is critical to corporate strategy. Finally, gender diverse boards also tend to adopt more progressive organizational management practices such as work-life support programs, which increase employee satisfaction. Putting all of these factors together and looking at how we might begin to solve for some of our most challenging problems around productivity, innovation, ESG requirements, and beyond, the benefits that greater inclusion and diversity can bring are pretty hard to ignore. At Dentons, when we think about the challenges we face and the opportunities we have, we always ask ourselves, what is the role that greater inclusion, diversity, and equity can play in getting us from where we are to where we want to be? It is integral to the conversation. I hope it will also be an important part of your discussions over the next few days. Thank you very much. Back to you, Katrina.
Thanks, Kate. So as we tackle the challenges that we've identified together as a country, our message from Dentons is that investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion will enhance your business performance and improve outcomes for the community using the infrastructure you develop. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Ngā mihi nui, kia koutou katoa.